Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lizette Hester, and I'm the program specialist with the Training Technical Assistance and Special Initiatives team, also known as TASI, within the Office of Family Assistance. Thank you for joining us for our second session of the Office of Family Assistance Tribal Learning and Action Series. The topic today will be supporting families, healthy marriage, and responsible fatherhood programming in tribal TANF. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us and are pleased to welcome representatives from the tribal TANF programs and organizations from across the country. Whether you participated in our first session or are joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. The Learning in Action series was created to provide tribal TANF programs with an opportunity to learn from one another and to hear directly from tribal representatives. Tribes are subject matter experts in their own programs, communities, cultures, and experiences, and we are grateful for today's presenters for sharing their promising practices, lessons learned, and innovative approaches to supporting children, families, and communities. As a reminder, this series is intended to foster peer-to-peer learning and the exchange of ideas among tribal TANF programs. We encourage you to consider how today's discussion may inform your own work and community, and we invite you to share your questions, insights, and experiences throughout the session. Thank you again for joining us today. With that, it is my pleasure to turn things over to our next speaker.
Thank you, Lizette. Hi, everyone. To introduce myself, my name is Brittany Tabora. I work at Mathematica as part of the STAR team, as Lizette mentioned. Just before we get started, I wanted to do a orientation for Zoom. So in the control bar, you can access the chat. I see a lot of people have already put things in the chat. So we invite you to use the chat throughout to share your questions, ideas, and observations. In the control bar at the bottom is also a microphone and camera controls. We invite you to turn on your camera if you would like to during the breakout discussions later, and we ask that you keep yourself muted except when participating in discussion or asking a question. So next, I will pass it to my colleague Diana for a land acknowledgement.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Gates. I'm a citizen of the Nottoway tribe from Southeastern Virginia. I work with Brittany, Lauren, and Claire at Mathematica. And we wanted to start off today with a land acknowledgement. So in the United States, we are all standing on the ancestral lands of Native peoples. We understand that generations of Native communities have experienced historical events and relocation of their families, which has resulted in chronic stress that impacts Native populations in numerous ways in our country today. We also understand that land is related to health, and we want to be good stewards of the land we're on. And this acknowledgement is just one piece of that. We recognize also that a land acknowledgement is just a first step. We support this action with resources and shared decision-making to meet tribal priorities and needs. We encourage our colleagues to research the history of the lands we are on, and if able, to find Native-led events to attend, organizations to support, and causes to champion. And I'll turn it back over to Brittany for the agenda.
Thanks, Diana. So here is our agenda for today. And just to note, we will also be recording the session except for the breakout group discussions. The recording will be posted along with the slides as well as a companion product to the STAR website soon. And throughout the presentation today, there will be a lot of links to different resources, and we will be sending that out via email to all of you after this presentation. So everything that you see on the slides you'll receive. But to overview our agenda, so we just did our welcome. Then we'll do an overview of healthy marriage and relationship education and responsible fatherhood programming. We'll go over approaches and considerations for integrating HMRF and tribal TANF. And then we'll have a lot of the time for breakout group discussions. So you'll be able to share your reflections and questions there. And then we'll go over the Indigenous HMRF Toolkit preview, and we will close out. Next slide, please. So just to share the motivation for this series, so we want to provide information and peer sharing to help programs advance the statutory purposes of TANF in ways that address your unique community needs and comply with program regulations. We want to increase awareness of approaches that other programs have used to strengthen families and support economic independence. And lastly, offer space to share your approaches, challenges, and questions with one another. So with that, I will pass it to our next speaker, Lauren.
Thanks so much, Brittany. Just wanted to say thank you so much again for having us today. My name is Lauren Tingy, and I am a principal researcher here at Mathematica. I have had the great fortune to work in partnership with tribal nations and indigenous communities for about 20 years. And most recently, Diana and I have been working on a project here at Mathematica, which has really sought to make healthy marriage and responsible fatherhood programs more culturally relevant for tribal communities. And much of this effort is directly applicable to your tribal TANF program. So we're really excited to share with you what we've learned from this work and also the products that we're developing. And Brittany kind of previewed that for you with our toolkit. So on the next two slides, I'm going to just talk a little bit more about these programs that we refer to. So I'm going to talk about them broadly as HMRF because they are a bit of a mouthful. But they can be broken up sort of conceptually as healthy marriage and relationship education programs. So that's kind of one bucket. And then the other bucket is responsible fatherhood programs. So in healthy marriage and relationship education programs, these are designed really for couples or individuals, regardless of whether or not they're in a romantic relationship. And they seek to teach skills, and those skills really are aimed for creating healthy and safe, stable relationships. And they are based on curriculum that organizations can really select themselves, and then they can adapt them as necessary. And that was really a big focus of the project that Diana and I have been working on, how programs can adapt them to be more culturally and contextually relevant for their communities. There are some very common components across HMRE curricula that we see, and this includes teaching about communication skills, conflict management and resolution, of course, stress recognition and management, emotional regulation, understanding your partner, and setting expectations for the realities of both long-term relationships and marriage. I think we can go to the next slide, please. Thanks, Brittany. Responsible fatherhood programs serve, sorry, my dog, 1 second.
Lauren, you're muted. Oh.
Just gonna walk and talk over to let my dog out because she will be very obnoxious if I don't do this. So fatherhood programs are designed for both fathers and father figures, and they don't necessarily have to live with the family or with the children. And these programs aim to help fathers and father figures become effective parents, and also as healthy partners or healthy co-parents. They also aim to teach economic stability so that fathers can support their children's development as well as their family stability. There are three components of responsible fatherhood programming. These are parenting education, healthy relationship education, and a major focus on, again, economic stability. So when we look kind of like break down those components, some of the elements of parenting education include a focus on child development, positive communication and self-regulation, and practical parenting activities. There's a lot of like a very much experiential component in fatherhood programming. The relationship education curricula focuses on some of the same elements as HMRE, but it also talks specifically about communication and conflict resolution with children. And then again, what I was sort of saying before is that the fatherhood programs definitely sort of have a major emphasis on economic stability and a lot of hands-on support to help fathers and father figures become employed. So there's a lot of focus on economic security, financial literacy, and some wraparound services to support them in finding work. So on the next slide, please. So what does this mean for you all, right? Like, why are we all here today? So we actually see a lot of sort of natural overlap and potential integration between HMRF and TANF. And I was really pleased to see so many folks already integrating a lot of related programming into their services already with the Motherhood is Sacred and Fatherhood is Sacred programs. Those are really, I think, sort of prime examples of what we might consider HMRE and HMRF programs. But more specifically, if we want to drill down on sort of the call to action with TANF, we see some direct overlap with purposes 1, 2, and 4. So for TANF purpose 2, really looking at work and self-sufficiency, all HMRF programs include services that support workforce training, job placement, and financial management because they really recognize that financial stressors can affect family stability. And again, that's a real major focus of the fatherhood programs. For TANF purposes 1 and 4, HMRF programs have really helped improve relationship quality and youth development, as well as parenting and co-parenting skills, which can contribute, as we know, to greater family stability and better outcomes for both children and young adults. And so, again, these are things that we know. We know that children and youth and young adult outcomes are associated with father involvement and stable two-parent families. So tribal TANF programs may be better able to support stronger families and healthy parent and co-parent relationships by engaging with HMRF programs through various approaches. And we're going to kind of talk about what we think some of those approaches might be in this presentation and sort of various methods that you might go about for integrating HMRF with TANF. And what we're hoping to do and what we want to leave you all with are some resources so that, inevitably when we all walk away from these presentations and get back to our regular jobs and sort of forget a lot of the things that we hear, that you will have some tangible resources that you can refer back to. And the resources that we've built into this slide set come directly from this toolkit that we've developed that came from this project that Diana and I are working on. And the toolkit really culls together resources and best practices from organizations just like yours that have incorporated HMRF programs into their work in tribal communities. And they've really done so in a way that has made HMRF programming culturally and contextually relevant. And so we have linked these resources directly into the slide deck so that you can have it moving forward. We also plan to send you all of the resources in an email afterwards. And then we actually will have this toolkit readily available to the public in its entirety at the end of September. So I think I'm passing it over to Diana.
Thanks, Lauren. So next we are going to think through conceptually how tribal TANF and HMRF programs may be related. We have envisioned that this could be accomplished under one or more of 4 overarching approaches. However, it of course would depend on your goals for your organization as well as where you're starting from. And so after we talk through this, conceptually, we are going to break up into smaller groups where we can get together and really discuss the specifics around what your organization might integrate from HMRF specifically. And also think about logistics. How would this actually work to integrate tribal TANF and HMRF? So as a preview for those small group discussions in a little bit, we have a series of questions that we would like for you to keep in your mind while I go through the next, I think, 4 slides. So Brittany will drop those questions in the chat. So those questions are: what is your program's motivation for building out services to support healthy marriages, relationships, and engaged fathers? What are your program's current supports for healthy relationships and marriages or for father engagement? What other HMRF related services might benefit your TANF participants and their families? Why would those services benefit your TANF participants and their families? what has been challenging about building out HMRF related services. And then also, what are important things to remember or consider for your community to ensure HMRF programming is relevant to your community and your culture? So I know it's a lot of questions. Just be kind of, thinking about those as we go through the next few slides before breakout groups. So we can go to approach number 1. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so this is our idea of one approach that you could take. So this is about strengthening family stability and well-being. So the motivation or the need that you might see in your community for an approach like this might be that families are facing relationship stress, they're facing co-parenting problems, there's conflict, social isolation that may be affecting household stability and child well-being. So for how HMRF complements TANF, this could be integrating healthy relationship and family strengthening services into your existing TANF case management, family support, and prevention activities. Some potential activities that could be used during this approach would be healthy relationship education, communication and conflict resolution skills, stress management and emotional regulation, family goal setting and planning, or family wellness workshops. And so just as a reminder, we have a lot of links embedded in the slides that come from the work that we've been doing on this other project that Lauren has been talking about. And you will get an email at the end that will contain all of these links. So just to let you know, I always get nervous and think, wait, I need the link. I want to make sure I can look at it. So those are going to be sent to you. Okay, we can go to approach 2. Okay, great. Thank you. So approach 2 is about strengthening father engagement and co-parenting. So the motivation or the need from your community might be that fathers and father figures are facing barriers to involvement with their children, or they may need support navigating parenting and or co-parenting relationships. So how this how HMRF complements TANF in this approach would be that you could expand TANF family services to include fatherhood programming that works on and helps strengthen parenting skills, co-parenting relationships, and economic stability. So potential activities for this approach could be having fatherhood support groups, parenting education and child development training, co-parenting and communication workshops, mentorship opportunities with tribal fathers and elders, and employment and workforce readiness services. So you can go to approach 3. So this one is about supporting healthy relationships among youth and young adults. So the motivation or need that you see in your community may be that young adults could benefit from skills and support that prepare them for healthy relationships, future parenting roles, and long-term family stability. So this, how HMRF complements TANF would be through providing preventative and educational services that help youth and young adults develop some of those skills, the relationship skills, life skills, economic skills before becoming parents. And some potential activities could be healthy relationship education for teenagers and young adults, communication and conflict management training, financial literacy and budgeting. That's a really big one that we see mentioned a lot actually by youth and young adults as something they wish they had more of. Goal setting and decision-making workshops, youth leadership and mentoring workshops or programs. And then we'll go to the final approach for how you may integrate HMRF into existing TANF programs. And this last one is about culturally grounded family and community strengthening. So the motivation or need that you may see within your community may be that families are seeking opportunities to reconnect with their cultural traditions, strengthen their intergenerational relationships, and reinforce community support, in especially in the ways that our communities, really used to. That was like such a huge priority, and so really families seeking opportunities to reconnect with that and strengthen this within your community. So, how HMRF complements TANF here, you could use HMRF resources to build on or expand culturally grounded family strengthening activities that reinforce your tribal values and traditional approaches to family wellness. Some potential activities for this approach could be elder-led family gatherings and workshops, traditional parenting and caregiving teachings, family cultural camps and events that they do as a family, intergenerational mentorship programs, or cultural activities that promote family connection and healing. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren, and she is going to introduce the breakout group, small group discussions, which we'll move into now.
Thank you, Diana. So that was a lot, we recognize, and very conceptual, as we mentioned. So we want to sort of now bring this to reality in small group discussions. So really just to talk about the feasibility of all of this. So we're going to break into two groups. And if folks can come off camera, that will really help make our discussion more fruitful and productive. So we want to start by talking about what aspects of HMRF programs and services you could potentially integrate into your existing tribal TANF programs. And then after that, we're going to talk about how you would do that. So it's going to be kind of like the what and then the how. We're going to spend about 20 minutes total in the breakout groups. Brittany and Claire are going to facilitate these sessions with some questions. And we are really excited to hear from everybody, so feel free to speak your mind. Emily, I believe, will open the breakout groups. You should see a pop-up window on your Zoom screen, and you'll need to click join to move from this group to the breakout group. And we look forward to a great discussion. And Emily will bring us back to the main group when it's time.
Welcome back, everyone. I apologize to my group. I was having several technical difficulties, but the parts of the conversation I was able to listen in on sounded like it was great. I heard some people share about the way that they've integrated marriage preparation into their programs, really to support healthy marriages. And we also talked about how to utilize different or some ideas for utilizing different budget line items, I believe, to support healthy marriage and relationships. Just wanted to see if anyone from my group would like to add any insights, and then I'll pass it to Claire to see what you all talked about in your group. Not to put anyone on the spot, but I believe yeah, there are some great insights if anyone wants to share from my group. Or Diana, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I can. I was just going to give it a couple more seconds. Yeah, I think we had a really interesting conversation around how some of this work is already going on naturally, and how different like tips and strategies for engagement, breaking down the stigma of like attending parenting classes, using some incentives and figuring out how that might work. So I think we had a great conversation. I think it was very fruitful and getting to hear ideas from everyone.
Claire, would you like to share a little bit about what your group discussed?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I jump in, is there anyone from my group that would like to share anything that they learned, or any questions that they have? I have a quick whole summary in my head, but okay, no pressure. We had a really fantastic conversation in our breakout room as well. So we talked about some of the motivations that programs have for integrating HMRF programming into TANF work. And one big thing together, or one main point, was preventing family separation. So we talked about that in terms of keeping fathers in the home, keeping father figures in the home, keeping children and their caregivers together wherever possible, and providing whatever support and resources that parents need to be able to make that happen. We also talked about making sure that knowing fathers are aware that Tribal TANF is a resource for them as well, and that there is specific programming for them, and not just in their roles as fathers directly in relating to their children, but also just as being men in their tribes, and being men in their communities. And so support for really who they are as an individual and support within their family system. We also talked about some different culturally grounded programming examples that folks are doing, which is super exciting. So some folks talked about some of their tribal TANF staff are trained in different culturally relevant curriculum and programs that resonate with their specific community values, which was awesome. And then lastly, we talked about a lot of things, but the last thing I'll say, we also talked about opportunities for integrating programming with other funding streams or programs that agencies are already working on. And so talking about developing out those partnerships specifically with 477 and TTCW programs, and figuring out what lessons and takeaways can be taken from those programs and those funding streams and used to elevate and strengthen existing TANF processes, specifically for fathers. Lauren, do you have anything that you'd like to add on that?
No, I think it's great.
Thanks, Claire. I'll just pause one more time and open it up to see if anyone would like to share anything that you learned or anything that you're walking away with from the session. Okay. We can go ahead and go to the next slide then, and I'll pass it to Lauren to walk us through this one.
I keep touting this toolkit, so I'm just gonna like keep, the train going. So as I mentioned, this project that Diane and I and other folks at Mathematica have been working on was really, it was really an impetus from ACF. I said this in our group. They looked at HMRF, which has 4 funding streams, so 4 grants that they put out, and they said, "Gosh, this is so much money. We have, we're pushing out so much into community, and yet there are so few organizations that are serving tribes that are applying for and getting this funding. Like, why is that happening?" And so this project that's been going on for 3 years really sought to try and understand that. And so we did. If you want to go to the next slide, this project was a 3-year endeavor, and it was guided by this fantastic community working group. We had various representatives from different tribal communities. We had HMRF staff, we had elders, we had Native researchers, we had participants in HMRF programs. They really guided the entire project. And we also did a descriptive study. We did site visits, both in person and virtual. We did in-depth interviews, focus groups. We did talking circles. We were able to speak with program directors of HMRF programs, but also program directors just like you all, of folks that have never gone after HMRF grants, to really try and get at this question of like, why are folks not going after this type of funding? And so everything that we learned, we pumped into this toolkit. And so we really feel like it is just a tremendous resource that can help you both be successful in trying to go after one of those HMRF grant streams, but to also make the programs that you're already doing more relevant, more appropriate, and to better serve the families and communities that you're already working with. So like I mentioned, the resources that we've already linked in the slides they're all from this toolkit. They link to briefs, they link to guides, they learn to other reports, they link to best practices, all kinds of things. And then we've also just built in some of our own resources where we've kind of culled together best practices into neat and tidy little tables so that you don't have to do that. So we're really excited about it. We believe it will be ready by the end of the contract, which is September 30th. So I just made myself a note to send it to all of you so you don't have to go digging for it. But I made a big plug in my small group that if you do think you might want to go after one of those HMRF grants, which I think it would be a great idea because they're tons of money. There are so many resources in this toolkit that I think would make your organization successful in applying for and receiving that funding. So definitely check it out. All right, I will turn it back to Brittany.
All right. Sorry about that, all. Thanks for bearing with us. We're having some bad thunderstorms and weather in the sort of mid-Atlantic area, so that could be part of the issue here. But just to let you all know what else is coming, what other resources will be available to you. There is going to be one more session in this series in case you were able to attend the one we did a few weeks ago. There's today, and then we will have one on strengthening economic independence through employment services in August. Date is still to be decided, so we will let you know as soon as we have that. As with all of the sessions in this series, we will be making available the recording from the session. There's also going to be a companion product, which is kind of like a little one-pager that summarizes the main points from the session, kind of key takeaways, just like a quick little written document for you all to reference in case you don't want to look back through the recording. The slides will also be made available all on the STAR website. So keep an eye out for that. And then as always, we do want to let you know about other resources that are available to you all. In case you want to get in contact with us, the email address is there. The STAR website, in case you all haven't accessed this before, it literally has thousands of resources from videos to tip sheets to like research reports on all topics TANF and tribal TANF and a lot of related topics as well. So you can search on different keywords there. So be sure to check that out if you haven't. There is going to be a specific web page on the STAR website for this learning series that we've been doing, and all of the resources for the sessions will be available on that. That's coming soon. And then there is also a relatively new resource on the website called the State and Tribal TANF Resource Repository. And this is really cool because we know we've heard from a lot of tribal programs in the past that you all love seeing the tools and resources and assessments and all of those things that you all use in your programs. And this is a way to share them with one another. So if you're interested in sharing something that you have with other programs or looking at resources or materials that other programs use, this repository is the place to go. And then lastly, there's always the opportunity through OFA's STAR project that is supporting this webinar today, this learning series today, to ask for one-on-one technical assistance or support. If you have a particular challenge that has just been, something you're having a hard time working through or understanding on your own, reach out and ask for assistance. There's a really simple form that you can fill in on the STAR website as well. So all of those resources are there. And don't forget, we will send you all an email shortly after today's session with all of the links. I mean, you're going to get dozens of links here, so be ready. The email is going to include all of the links and resources that we mentioned today. And as I just put in the chat a couple minutes ago, when the toolkit becomes available publicly, we will also share that with you all, and it will go on STAR's website. So that is it for today. But we wanted to let you know about all of those great resources, and we really appreciate you all taking the time to join today, sharing your great questions, your great ideas.
what your program is doing. It's really the best way for everyone to be able to learn from one another. So appreciate you all. Look for that email later today. And thank you again. Have a great evening and a wonderful weekend.